Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Shabbat class, the 18th of July, 2026. Okay, I'm kind of bounce off of Friday night and off this morning Sabbath class. I'm gonna deal with a little more about Constantine. Uh, and this topic is Constantine didn't come to pray; he came to rule. So we're gonna check that out. You can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. All these videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. We have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen for those who want to support this channel and help it move along. Okay, that too will be greatly appreciated. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. We don't deal with the New Testament. Uh, the Tanakh is from Genesis to Malachi, okay, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, which consist of our laws, Israel's laws, statutes, judgments, our culture, our way of life. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews who are waking up to their true identity in these last days, and also understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is, right? So you probably, if you've been hanging around and you've been hearing me say this uh, phrase, over and over again. So Israel's Savior, true Savior and Redeemer is the Lord of hosts, Michael, the Lord of hosts, the first being that Yahweh created in the very beginning. He created 7 angels in the very beginning, but the first one he created was Michael, and he's no other angel like him. He was created, his name tells it all, which means he who is like Yahweh, okay, or he who can create. So when you understand that, when you go to Genesis, the first chapter of Genesis, it's obvious that Yahweh is commanding somebody else to do the creating. And then once they create whatever he commanded them to create, he looks at it and he says good, and then move on. So it's not just Yahweh there in the very beginning. Okay, we can see that in Genesis chapter, the first 2 chapters in the Tanakh. First chapter is Yahweh. The second chapter is the Spirit of God is moving upon the waters. When you understand what a spirit is an angel, it's an angelic being, messenger, Spirit of God. Okay, so Yahweh in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and the Lord of hosts in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. Chapter 1, verse 2. Okay. So with that being said, shalom and welcome to this channel. And welcome to our evening Shabbat class. Okay, we're gonna do our normal, which is one with silence, prayer, psalms. We have some current events, some need to know information. Then we got dialogue on the distractions that this government, that this administration is doing when it comes to Iran. But there are 3 other stories that the American people are missing. Okay, so they throwing a rock with one hand and they hiding this other information with the other hand. Okay, we're gonna expose that. Okay, and then like I said, our topic for discussion is Israel. The Israelis' defense has collapsed, and the Middle East war. That means everything in the Middle East with the war that's going on. And then like I said, we'll be dealing with the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Constantine didn't come to pray. There's nothing religious about what he did. He came to set up his rulership, okay, his dominion, like it says in Daniel chapter 7. Okay, then we're gonna pick a scripture like we normally do. We'll break that scripture down, talk about it, then we're gonna close the Shabbat. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay? Oh Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and your wisdom. And we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of your people Israel. Oh Lord, you have given us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers. And you, oh Lord, have directed us to who you are and your role in the goings on of heaven and earth. And we come this day at the end of your Shabbat, doubtless that you will appear and that you will gather your nation from among these wicked Gentiles. Okay? Oh Lord, tarry not, for the latter days are here, and we are waiting and watching for you. Peace be unto you. Okay? Read a psalm very quick. Okay. Okay, let me read Psalms 11. In the Lord put I my trust. Okay? It's a Psalm of David. In the Lord I put my trust. How say ye to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? For lo, the wicked bend their bow, they make ready their arrows upon the string, that they may privately shoot at the upright in heart. If the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked and him that loveth violence his soul hateth. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire, and brimstone, and a horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup. For the righteous Lord loveth righteousness. His countenance doeth behold the upright. Okay, so that was Psalms 11. In the Lord put I my trust, Psalm of David. Okay, any comments on that? Got anything?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. I got a question about verse 4, sir.
Okay.
Is both those lords, they're both just referring to the Lord of hosts?
Okay, we're gonna look at it.
It, the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven.
Okay, it says verse 3, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. So we know in Zechariah chapter 4, it says, the eyes of the Lord, right?
Mm, right, yes,
Run
sir.
to and fro. That's these seven angels, right?
Right.
So it says right here, uh, the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes, that's these angels, right?
Right.
His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. So these angels,
Mm,
see that?
right. Okay.
Like I said before, you gotta when you understand what these people have done. We saw that from Friday night and this morning about the Constantine, but you have to know what Lord you're dealing with.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Hmm.
and the scriptures gonna when you understand how they work, you're gonna see who Lord you're dealing with by the content in the scripture. Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna go to our current events. Okay. We got first one. This is an update on what happened in with the guy Nolan. Okay.
Revealing some new GPS data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, tracking the movements of the boat Nolan Wells was on before he disappeared July 4th.
For 2 weeks, a name has carried more weight than almost anything else in the Nolan case, precisely because so little was known about the person attached to it. A name without a full story. 2 people were with Nolan Wells in his final confirmed minutes on Horn Island. Nolan's friends, and a young woman they only ever referred to by her first name. For nearly 2 weeks, one of those 2 accounts stayed almost entirely out of public view, while the other was repeated so many times it started to sound like established fact. Tonight, that changes, because what Katie says happened does not match what his friends told investigators. Has already lost their son, now has to sit with the possibility that somebody, somewhere in this story, isn't telling them the truth. Think about what that means for 2 parents who have spent every day since July the 4th trying to understand how their son's holiday trip ended the way it did. It isn't enough for them to know what happened. They need to know who they can trust to tell them. There's more waiting for you tonight. Tracked GPS coordinates showing exactly where a boat went, hour by hour, on the day Nolan disappeared. A record that doesn't care about anyone's feelings or loyalties, only about what actually occurred. A grand jury, now officially in motion, carrying this case somewhere it has never been before. And a set of small, strange details his own parents still can't make sense of. Details that have nothing to do with online rumors or viral posts, and everything to do with what actually happened on a barrier island off the coast of Mississippi. Before we start, a quick note. This case centers on the death of a young man, so if that's a heavy topic for you tonight, please take care of yourself as we go. And if you want to follow this case as it develops, hit subscribe now, and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from tonight, because a family somewhere is hoping the right person sees this and remembers something they haven't shared yet. Let's start with the name that took 2 weeks to surface, and the fear that came attached to it. Nolan had a conversation with a young woman on the beach. His friends would later refer to her only as Katie. That's where the confirmed information stopped for a long time. Katie's identity wasn't in the first wave of coverage. It wasn't in the early statements from the family's legal team, while speculation online chased down pool parties and out-of-context video clips. The one person who may have spoken with Nolan last sat almost completely unidentified, unaware, most likely, that her name would eventually matter this much to strangers she had never met. Part of the reason traces back to the very first night he went missing, a night that for his mother must have felt like it stretched on without end. According to someone who was on the phone with Christine Wansley as she tried to figure out where her son was, Katie's name entered the conversation almost by accident, mentioned as someone Nolan had wanted to stay behind with. And then came a detail that made an already terrifying night considerably worse. Word that Katie herself might be missing too, with nobody on that call able to say who she actually was, or where to even begin looking for her. Picture that moment for a second. A mother already searching for one missing child, suddenly told there might be 2. No name to attach to the second worry, no number to call, just more fear, stacked on top of fear that already had nowhere left to go. That particular fear turned out to be unfounded. Katie was never missing. She had left the island safely that day on a different boat and had been reachable the entire time. Confirmation of that came not from police and not from Nolan's friends, but from her own mother, Gracie McCormack, who posted publicly to correct the record once speculation about her daughter started spreading online in ways she never expected. According to McCormack, her daughter was on Horn Island that day, spent time with Nolan, and the 2 parted ways sometime that afternoon. She says her daughter has no knowledge of anything that happened to him afterward. She said goodbye to him. She got on a different boat. She went home to a mother who had no idea at the time that her daughter's name would soon sit at the center of one of the most talked about cases in the country. If that were the whole story, it would end there, quietly, the way most small footnotes in a larger tragedy tend to end. It doesn't, because attorney Ben Crump, representing the Wells family, says Katie's account of that final conversation is specific and hasn't wavered, and it conflicts directly with what Nolan's friends have said. According to Katie, Nolan told her he was planning to rejoin his friends and get back on their boat before they left the island. According to the friends themselves, Nolan told them the opposite, that he intended to stay behind on the island with Katie, entirely by his own choice, in his own words. Both statements cannot be accurate. One of these two accounts is wrong. And somewhere behind that single word, wrong, sits a family who has to live with not knowing which one it is. If Katie's version holds up, then something happened in the space between Nolan stating his intention to leave and the boat actually pulling away without him. Something interrupted whatever plan he had. Nobody has explained what. If the friend's version holds up, then Nolan made a deliberate, conscious choice to remain alone on a remote barrier island as his only ride home departed without him, which raises an entirely different question about what happened to him in the hours that followed, alone, without the group he had spent the whole day with. This isn't a theory pulled from a comment section or a claim built on speculation. It's a direct contradiction between two people who were both there, describing Nolan's last documented words in two ways that simply cannot be reconciled with each other. And right now, as of this recording, nobody, not the family, not the investigators, not anyone with the authority to say for certain, has resolved it. Nolan's parents are left holding two versions of their son's final choice, unable to know which one is real. There's a particular kind of pain in that specific uncertainty, one that's different from grief itself. And they don't have the luxury of treating it as a plot point. They have to live with it as an open question, indefinitely, until someone gives them a real answer. None of these details, taken individually, tell us exactly what happened to Nolan Wells. But together, according to the people who loved him most, they're the reason this family says they cannot simply accept the official account as complete, and why they continue, night after night, to ask questions nobody has fully answered yet. Here is what the GPS record shows. At 9:56 in the morning on July the 4th, the boat carrying Nolan and his friends left its dock, beginning a day that no one on board could have known would end the way it did. By 11:14, it had reached Horn Island. For several hours afterward, the group stayed together, celebrating the holiday the way so many others were doing that same afternoon along that same stretch of coast. At 4:31 that afternoon, according to data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, the boat left Horn Island. Nolan was not on board. It returned to its original dock, and then, rather than staying there for the night, it kept moving. At 5:52 p.m., the boat traveled into Fort Bayou. By 6:06, it was back at the dock once again. Later that night at 7:19 p.m., the boat's tracked position shifted one more time to the Fort Bayou boat launch. From there, according to the Marine Resources report, it was taken out of the water entirely and moved over land, presumably towed by a vehicle, to a residence in Biloxi, owned by the boat's owners. Sit with that sequence. 4 separate movements, recorded automatically after the moment Nolan was left behind. Not one simple boat trip home, but a series of stops across several hours, ending on land more than 70 miles from where the day began. That sequence, tracked without any input from anyone connected to this case, is the exact window investigators are still working to fully explain, and the exact window Nolan's parents replay in their minds, over and over, searching for what might have happened inside it. Now to where the official process stands, and what has changed most recently for a family that has spent weeks waiting for anyone in a position of authority to simply sit down and talk to them directly. Professionals brought in specifically for the technical work involved. As of this recording, that inspection has not yet taken place. The family is still waiting, the way they have been waiting, in one form or another, since the night their son didn't come home. Waiting on a search, waiting on a coroner, waiting on an autopsy, waiting on a meeting with the district attorney, and now waiting on a phone. Each piece of this case has arrived slowly, on its own timeline, and each time, this family has had no choice but to wait for it. Before we close tonight, 2 pieces of this case deserve a quick, direct correction, because both of them spread widely, and both of them shaped what people believed about Nolan's death, long before anyone actually checked whether they were true. The first involved a photograph. An image of Nolan at a pool party began circulating online after his body was found, and for a short, disorienting period of time, a significant number of people genuinely believed it proved he had been alive after July the 4th. Somewhere out there, strangers were sharing a photo and quietly hoping it meant Nolan Wells wasn't really gone. Hope that a grieving family had to watch spread, knowing it wasn't true, and having to say so publicly, again and again. It wasn't true. Rolling Stone confirmed, through image metadata and an account from his friend Trayston Shepard, that the photo had actually been taken on June the 27th, a full week before Nolan ever went to Horn Island. It had simply been uploaded online on July the 5th, which is what caused the confusion about its timing in the first place. The second involved a video. Many believed it captured Nolan in an argument shortly before he vanished, treating the recording online as though it were the missing piece of the entire case. Shepard addressed that one directly as well. The voice on the recording, he confirmed, was his own, not Nolan's. Both pieces of misinformation have since been corrected, publicly and clearly. What's left, once you strip them both away, is what was always underneath them from the very beginning: the timeline, the unresolved contradiction between two first-hand accounts, and a family still waiting, patiently and publicly, for someone to give them real answers instead of theories. This case is still open. It remains, in every sense, unfinished. The grand jury hasn't concluded anything yet. The phone inspection agreed to weeks ago still hasn't happened. And the contradiction between Katie's account and the account given by Nolan's friends still hasn't been resolved by anyone with the actual authority to resolve it. What we've laid out tonight isn't speculation, and it isn't the version of this story that spread fastest online. It's what has actually been confirmed, by name, by record, by verified reporting, as of today. And it is, in many ways, the very least a grieving family deserves. Not another theory, not another rumor, just the truth as far as it's currently known. Told?
Okay, you got anything on that? You heard anything about that?
Lennon, not all, not necessarily that they disinformation from this clip, but I was looking at some things today, and just like that, all this evidence is coming out. You know, if this was a white boy, a white kid, had died like this, I mean, all these people would have all locked up. You know, whether the case
Oh,
has
yeah.
been a trial already, but I feel like there would have already been consequences given out. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
with that judge being involved after the fact and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm like, come on.
There is a call.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with what they just said about how many times the boat moved after that. They ain't criminalizing themselves.
Yes, sir. Obstruction of justice.
Right. You said nobody. All that's is shunned.
Yes, sir. And Brother Leonard, one of the main I was thinking about while you was playing it, you know how you had mentioned what they do on that island that they went to?
Right. Yeah.
That
Exactly.
yes, sir. Right. So that made me think that's why the stuff coming up so slow, because they don't necessarily need that uncovered. You know what goes on that
Right.
island. You know.
Exactly. Right. Oh yeah. And then I never did picture that the scene looked like they showing on the video on this movie, how all these boats all packed there like they was. So you want to see that? It's the name of that video is Nolan Wells Update. Girl finally speaks out. So they showing these pictures of where somebody had a phone. They were showing how the setup, the scene, what was going on. So yeah. We're gonna keep an eye on that.
And Shalom, that pic too that was uploaded.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's weird too. It seemed like somebody was trying to throw off the timeline of what happened. Like, oh no, he
Exactly.
probably is still alive. Nah, that's crazy.
Right. Trying to set a timeline. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yes, sir.
Trying to develop a timeline. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It's crazy.
Buying time too. That makes sense going along with how many times the boat was moved and then how they went and cleaned it up. Because they said they went to the owner's house and they cleaned it up in the middle of the night. So by them putting that picture up, that's buying time. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yes, sir.
Right. Check this out.
Washington never denied happened. And that alone should tell you something. Because in this town, when a story is false, someone usually rushes to say so within the hour. This time, silence. The story going around is that Donald Trump got on the phone with Benjamin Netanyahu and told him, in essence, that if it weren't for the president's own intervention, the Israeli prime minister would already be sitting in a jail cell. Told him that everybody hates him now and that people have started to hate Israel because of him. That's not a leak from a hostile foreign capital. That's not something dreamed up by an activist with a grudge. That's reportedly the President of the United States speaking to the leader of what Washington has called its most important ally in the Middle East for the better part of 80 years. I want you to sit with that for a second, because I don't think most people have. For decades, the entire architecture of Israeli strategy has rested on one assumption above all others. Whatever happens on the battlefield, whatever the United Nations says, whatever Europe thinks, Washington will be there unconditionally, reflexively, almost by instinct. That assumption is what let Israeli governments take risks that no other country in the region could afford to take. It's the reason a state of 10 million people could fight wars on 4 fronts at once and never once worry about running out of ammunition, intelligence, or diplomatic cover. These are traditional Western institutions and traditional Western governments drawing lines they never used to draw. Every tactical victory on the ground has been purchased with a small piece of exactly the international legitimacy that a country surrounded on multiple fronts actually needs to survive long term. The strain of this war has worked its way into the institutions Israel depends on most, not just the ones running the war, but the ones meant to be watching everyone's back while it's being fought. None of this happens in a vacuum. A government fighting a multi-front war abroad while fracturing from the inside is a government that cannot project the kind of long-term strategic confidence a moment like this actually requires. And adversaries watching from Throm, from Ankara, from Moscow, they don't need me to point that out to them. They're watching the same headlines everyone else is. While all of that consumes Israel's political oxygen, something quieter and arguably more dangerous is happening right on its borders. Israel has not opened a real security dialogue with the new government in Syria, not a serious one, not one with any teeth. And into that silence, Turkey has been steadily expanding its own influence, building relationships and infrastructure in a country that shares a border with Israel and has historically been one of the most volatile pieces of the entire regional puzzle. This is happening not because Israel is weak in any conventional military sense, but because its attention and frankly its diplomatic bandwidth is consumed almost entirely by Washington, by Lebanon, and by its own internal political survival.
So it says that the next 48 hours between now and the next 2 days will define what Trump presidency is going to be all about. And it says that this, Douglas McGregor says that he's completely on his own. So we're going to check that out and see what happens. Okay. I thought this right here was pretty interesting. Just some need to know information. Okay.
It's your friend CJ. And in this week's episode, we look at why Turkey is preparing for war against Israel.
Turkey.
A war of Israel's choosing that will ultimately result only in the total destruction of the Zionist project forever. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show while not forgetting to turn your notifications on so you never miss a single episode. Now let's get into it. It's been nearly 1 full year since we forewarned Israel had set itself on a path to war against Turkey over diverging and competing interests in Syria, where Ankara is providing diplomatic, financial, and military support to the new Syrian government. while at the same time, Israel sponsors a Druze-led insurgency with the aim of breaking up the now unified Arab country into competing ethnic blocs, therefore putting in motion a 6-decade-long Zionist strategy of sowing chaos, division, and bloodshed among neighboring countries in order to keep them weak, demoralized, and divided.
After a brief reprieve in the Middle East following the devastating war between Israel and Iran, tensions are again rising, this time between Israel and Syria.
قصف يا شباب قصف جديد قصف جديد يا شباب قصف جديد مبنى هيئة الأركان خالص قصف جديد يا شباب قصف خطونا بسرعة بسرعة.
Israel launched strikes in retaliation to Syrian attacks on the minority Arab Druze and Christians in Syria.
Our regular viewers will remember that we predicted Israel would turn its attention to Turkey after it had first dragged the United States into a war against Iran. A prediction that's coming to fruition now, that the Zionist Crusader war against Tehran has turned out to be a catastrophic failure, given Trump has rebuked Israel by choosing against toppling the Iranian government or dismantling its ballistic missile program. This is a total disaster for Israel, because from its perspective, any peace deal, negotiation, or even pause in fighting represents another nail in the coffin for the greater Israel project. Because stealing and colonizing more Arab land will remain a distant fantasy if the Zionist army is unable to vanquish the two most powerful militaries in the region, meaning Iran, Turkey, or both, which is why Israel is suddenly obsessed with attacking Turkey.
I think that Turkey of Erdogan and Syria of Ashara are now far more concerning than Iran. The era of the Shiite empire of Iran, Assad, Syria, and Hezbollah is over. The new axis is the Muslim Brotherhood axis of Erdogan's Turkey, Syria, and Qatar. And it's better to get awake and to open your eyes now before it is too late.
יהיה לו את הפסים שלנו.
ארדואן אדם מסוכן מאוד. טורקיה בהובלתו היא איום משמעותי מאוד על מדינת ישראל. אני קודם כל רוצה לומר לך ולאזרחי מדינת ישראל, אנחנו נערכים למול האיום הזה במגוון רחב של דברים.
Israeli leaders are banging the drums for war against Turkey for a few obvious reasons, starting with a need to create a new enemy to replace Iran, a desire to dominate Syria and Lebanon, and to drive a wedge between the United States and its allies. If Israel wants a war with Turkey, then it's a war Israel will get, and it's a war it will sorely lose.
On the words of the president's going to Turkey, look, Turkey is a great country, but it's governed by a man who calls openly for the annihilation of Israel. He occupies half of Cyprus, a NATO country. He's threatening Greece and other NATO countries, and he talks openly about conquering Jerusalem. His foreign minister, his number two, said that the Jewish state hasn't a place among humanity. Basically, it has to be wiped out. His interior minister, said he looks forward to be the governor of Jerusalem. Well, for a regime infected by the Muslim Brotherhood, an extreme movement that hates America and chants death to America from that side of the spectrum, I don't think they should be given F-35s or the engines for their fighter jets, because that'll upset the power balance in the Middle East, which is ultimately guaranteed by Israeli air superiority and also by, I think, by America's posture in the Middle East.
Overlap with those of the United States.
The Iran war was a clear setback to Israel's regional plans. But as night follows day, the political establishment in Israel has turned its sights on Turkey. This is a clearer sign that even if Israel had achieved regime change in Tehran, the war would not have stopped. It would simply have moved onto a different stage. So now Turkey has become the latest existential threat to Israel. As if in unison, a chorus of Israeli politicians has raised the alarm about a new Sunni axis opening up, composed of Turkey, Syria, and Qatar. This has not gone down well with Trump, who had little hesitation in laughing off the notion that his best friend, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, was an anti-Semitic dictator, as Netanyahu now claims. Erdogan is a great leader, a very strong person. Everything I've asked from him, he's done, Trump said. When Netanyahu said Israel's new security doctrine was to kill them first, Vance was even blunter. He said, you're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem. But Israel is as serious about setting on Turkey as it was about bombing Iran.
If a war breaks out between Turkey and Israel, the US will be forced to pick a side, and it will pick its NATO ally because America isn't completely stupid. It knows Israel is practically worthless and therefore easily disposable. And whereas Israel is a tiny strip of land defined by its lack of strategic depth and natural resources, Turkey, on the other hand, is a massive continent-bridging landmass with the second largest standing army in NATO and has total control over the Black Sea. And more importantly, Turkey controls the Eastern Mediterranean naval lanes because its navy outguns the Israeli navy by orders of magnitude. With its new amphibious assault ships, its rapidly expanding submarine fleet, and anti-ship cruise missiles, Turkey could establish an absolute naval blockade of Israel. And would.
Okay, so what you think about that? Is that something?
Right, that is, brother Leonard, but I think too that they're trying to downplay some of what Israel got going on. You know, saying that they're worthless and all of that, but they steady got their plans going forward. So
Right. Yeah, I was listening to. I was conversating with somebody over the week, and they continue to keep saying that, according to all of to the news, Israel steady getting bombed and this and that and another, and like the guy just said, it's a little small country. So what it's going to take to you know, all these bombing? Well, why are they still standing?
right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I said, the propaganda machine. They control the media. So yeah. So with that being said, let me check this out. To just kind of go along with what you just said. Check it out.
Right now, almost everyone's attention is on the Iran situation.
Right.
The strikes, oil prices, the blockade. I totally get it. It makes sense. It's big news. But while the world is focused on the Middle East, there are three extremely important stories that are flying almost under the radar, and nobody's paying attention to them. These are not small issues. Each one of these has the potential to fundamentally change the world that we're living in. And the reason why most people are missing this is because they're laser focused on the Iran situation, and it's just so loud. But if you care about preparedness, supply chains, your freedom, or just what the next few years are going to actually look like once this whole Iran situation is over, these three stories deserve your attention. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what these three under the radar stories are, why they matter so much more than people realize, and what they could mean for you and your family in the coming months and years. Let's get into it. Welcome back to The One Row. My name is David. On this channel, we try to focus on real practical preparedness in a turbulent and changing world. The entire world is right now extremely unstable, and it's totally understandable that we're going to be all focused on the Iran situation. Again, like I talked in the intro, the strikes, oil prices, etc. But there are three major issues that are quietly developing that most people are completely missing. And the reason I'm bringing them to your attention is because I think they are fundamentally critical to the next couple of years here in the United States and to the world in general. But we're going to talk about each one. We're going to break them down, explain why they matter, and talk about some practical steps that we might be able to do to get a little bit more ahead of these potential issues. But before I get into it, I would really appreciate it, and it would help me and my family to be better prepared. You would smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content, and check out our live streams on Sunday at 9 o'clock or on Thursdays at 8 o'clock. If you want to interact with us live, ask us some questions, So we'd like to get to know you better. Now, the first story is in the world of AI, and basically Anthropic, which is the maker of Claude, have a new version of Claude called Claude Mythos. And it's not available to the public yet because it is dramatically more powerful than anything that they've ever released before, especially at finding and writing computer code that can break into systems. In simple terms, Mythos is so good at discovering security holes in phones, computers, critical infrastructure, networks, that Anthropic is actually worried it could be used to cause massive cyber attacks if it ever got into the wrong hands. To demonstrate how worried they are, they announced a new project called Project Glasswing to use this unreleased version of Claude in a defensive setting. So instead of releasing it to the public, Anthropic gave limited gated access to a select group of major companies, is to let these organizations use Mythos to scan and fix vulnerabilities in critical software and open source code before it's released to the public so that they can fix all these things before malicious actors have access to use these tools. This is such a potentially dangerous situation that the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell held an urgent closed-door meeting with CEOs of major banks, including Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo. And I apologize for laughing, but oh my gosh, we are going to end up, this is literally going to turn into Skynet. Maybe not by nukes, but oh my God, we're just going to end up destroying ourselves. So why should you care? Well, this is the first time that an AI company has actually not wanted to release one of their models to the public because it was too dangerous. This is a clear demonstration that shows how fast AI capabilities are advancing and why cybersecurity, digital privacy, and the security of power grids, banks, and critical infrastructure, phones could become more fragile in the very near future. The biggest and most immediate long-term risk is that Mythos-level AI would make sophisticated cyber attacks dramatically easier and faster. Once Mythos is publicly accessible to everyone, this could trigger an actual global arms race of sorts, a cyber arms race between offensive and defensive AI cyber systems. The long-term downside isn't just like one big attack. I mean, that's possible, but to me, the real issue is the creation of a permanently more dangerous digital world where security is much harder to maintain. Costs are dramatically increased, and the trust in technology and in digital systems will slowly erode. The next story that's been under the radar while we've been all, and I've been doing the same thing, but why we've all been focused on Iran, something bigger and quieter is happening in the global political stage. And it's a series of major political title shifts that could reshape alliances, economies, and stability across Europe and South America for years to come. Let's start with Europe. Just 2 days ago in Hungary, Viktor Orban's party suffered a stunning defeat in the parliamentary elections after being in power for 16 years. It appears that his grip on the country is slipping. This is huge because Hungary has been one of the most reliably pro-Russia voices inside the European Union. And a major change in leadership there could weaken Russia's influence in Central Europe and shift the balance inside the EU itself, increasing the likelihood of an aggressive EU action or retaliation against Russia because of the Ukraine within the Ukraine conflict. Then there's Bulgaria. This weekend, this upcoming weekend, people in Bulgaria are heading for another snap parliamentary election. The country has been stuck in the cycle of political fragmentation, and the vote could further highlight just how unstable Eastern Europe is becoming right now. Additionally, in Netherlands and parts of Germany, there's populist and anti-establishment parties are gaining ground. Between these things in Eastern Europe and Western Europe's having to battle mass immigration issues, there's starting to be a real political realignment. It started a few years ago. I mean, it really started back with Brexit, but it's continued from there till now through the immigration of the early 2020s. So you have Europe starting to fracture in a way, while President Trump is, and the UN, and it's not just President Trump, many in the US are questioning the value of NATO itself. And that's just Europe. At the same time, South America is growing increasingly unstable. Peru just had had their first round of the new presidential election, and the country has been in near constant political crisis for years. And this vote is another sign that things are not settling down. The problem is that Peru is a major producer of copper and other critical minerals, and the turmoil there could ripple into the global supply chain for electronics, solar panels, and electric vehicles, and the refinancing of loans of these commercial office buildings that are at high levels of vacancy. So the housing and mortgage situation is to me a short to midterm concern. But if you combine it with the second one, to me, the second one is far more concerning, but the combination of the two is very, very bad. But the second one is America's birth rate continues to decline. We are now at levels where our population is basically stagnant if you remove immigration. There are fewer babies being born today, and in 15 to 20 years, that means that our workforce is going to be much, much smaller. And that's going to put enormous amounts of pressure on Social Security, Medicare, the overall tax base, the entire economy. And when you talk about combining a shrinking future workforce with rising housing costs from the mortgage situation and growing debt, it creates a very, very difficult situation for the next generation. Fewer.
Okay, what you think?
Shalom. Brother Leonard, kind of sound like the B system falling apart a little bit. On top of, I can see a little population control in there as well, because I know they play a big part in, and I know the Lord of hosts too, but just a lot of the things in our food that we eat and drink has a lot to do with population control too. It was as far as amongst quote unquote Americans.
It has to end soon.
Right. Exactly. So it's all, to me, it's all in play. Like I said, they're doing a slow demo job on the United States, and every little area where they're working on it, when you add them all up together, it's gonna eventually bring this place down. And that's what the powers that be doing. It's like I was listening to a video this morning on this channel, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that they brought up those towers. Remember the towers that they had for the 500,000, keeping the population down to 500,000 people?
Right.
Yeah, that came up this morning. And I say, they removed that. They tore it down, but that's still going on. Matter of fact, it seemed like to me that when they tore it down, they had accomplished their goal. It'll come to me in a minute. The name of that place. They tore it down. Yeah, we'll find out. So here we go. This is the last one right here. Then we go into our main topic.
With a reality that is becoming increasingly clear to military analysts and intelligence officials, even if it hasn't fully registered with the public. The architecture of Israeli air and missile defense has, for all practical purposes, collapsed. We are no longer seeing the kind of interception rates that were once taken for granted. The majority of incoming projectiles are...
So whether it's true or not, I think it's a lie, but they're showing America falling, and they're showing that Israel, they're showing America being weakened, and they're also showing these Israelis over here in the Middle East, they being weakened. Okay, but we're going to
are getting through, and that is a fundamental game changer. What makes this moment truly significant is that the nature of the threat has evolved beyond what our strategic planners anticipated. The old calculus, which held that an attacker needed to launch 100 missiles to achieve a meaningful effect, is obsolete. Today, a salvo of 10 precision-guided munitions can produce devastation that dwarfs what was possible with saturation attacks of the past. These warheads carry thousands of pounds of high explosives, they are accurate, and they are simply not being stopped. That is the part many people are still failing to grasp. There is a deeper reality here, and it concerns the assumptions that have guided our military thinking for decades. The notion that you need overwhelming numbers to overwhelm defenses no longer applies. And there is another critical point that seems to escape almost everyone. A substantial portion of Iran's missile arsenal, along with the underground facilities that support them, is located in eastern Iran. Those assets have not been touched. They have not been meaningfully degraded by any attack we have launched. So, while we celebrate tactical successes, the strategic depth of our adversary remains entirely intact. I was watching some of the commentary last night, and I have to be honest, I do not spend a great deal of time with Fox News, but I was told that Senators Cotton and Hawley would be appearing. What struck me was that they were already pivoting toward a narrative of declaring victory. The message was clear: we have done all we can, and now it is time to bring the troops home. That is a notable shift in tone, but it speaks to a broader anxiety that is circulating in Washington. From my sources on the inside, and this now appears to be reinforced through Fox, which often functions as a mouthpiece for the administration, it is becoming obvious that President Trump wants an exit. He has come to realize that there is no victory to be found here. We can continue dropping bombs and firing missiles indefinitely, and it will not change the fundamental dynamics of the region. It will not improve our position. And the worst part is that this conflict is dragging the global economy toward recession and potentially even depression. The people around him are warning him bluntly, boss, this has to end, and it has to end soon. If it doesn't, we are all heading toward poverty, along with the rest of the world. Possibility I did not bring up earlier, and it is a dark one. Mr. Netanyahu, who is the real source of all this trouble in Israel, could turn to nuclear weapons because Israel has nuclear weapons. If Israel were to use one against Iran, the world would change in a profound way. I do not even want to dwell on all the possibilities that would follow. But they could include a nuclear catastrophe for Israel itself because many people around the world would not tolerate that outcome. And I am no longer convinced President Trump has Netanyahu under control. Frankly, it looks much more as though Netanyahu is in charge of Trump. That is precisely why people hope and pray it never comes to that. But then you have the constant regime change narrative layered on top of all this. We have heard that refrain repeatedly. We heard it in Venezuela. We have seen it throughout modern history. There was even a meme going around pointing out that we spent trillions of dollars on regime change in Afghanistan, only to watch the Taliban return to power. So when people ask whether this is largely another manufactured narrative, my answer is yes, with about a 99% probability. First, let us be honest about Venezuela. We did not change the regime there. What we did was pay people millions of dollars in the hope that they would allow us to go in, kidnap Mr. Maduro and his wife, and bring them back to the United States for trial and imprisonment. But Venezuela itself did not change. The same government remained, the same people commanding the police remained, the same military remained, the same individuals controlling or feeding off the economy remained. Nothing changed. So what exactly did we do? We basically said, we are going to steal the oil. Every time you load another tanker, we are going to seize it and decide where it goes. That is not regime change. The last time I checked, that is called piracy. So there has been no regime change in Venezuela. And behalf. In other words, Congress was bought and so was the White House. That is why it is now so difficult for President Trump, who I believe genuinely wants an exit, to disengage, especially when Israel is in such bad condition. Now consider the broader regional relationship piece. Iran was part of OPEC, and now it is attacking nearby infrastructure, striking neighboring states, and hitting American bases in the region. So the question becomes whether regime change is necessary to repair these relationships, or whether there is now a deeper conflict brewing between Iran and its neighbors. The first thing to remember is that the so-called neighboring nations, the GCC states, Kuwait, Bahrain, the Emirates, and also Saudi Arabia, have long played a double game. They passed money to whoever they thought they could buy for protection, and they invested enormous sums in us in exchange for our promise of military protection. That arrangement is over because it has now been demonstrated that we cannot protect them. And these countries did not directly join Israel in triggering this war, but they have absolutely been playing a double game with the Israelis. And remember also that Iran, along with other Muslim Arab states, and I would include Turkey in this, has been outraged by the mass killing and deportation of Palestinians from Israel. The Saudis and the Gulf Emirates, by contrast, have largely offered lip service while continuing to cooperate with Israel and do business with it at the same time. Others have not. I think Iran became disgusted by that hypocrisy because there was an expectation that some form of Islamic solidarity would appear, and it never did. The Iranians grew tired of hearing these governments pretend to care about Palestinian lives while doing absolutely nothing to defend them. Contrast have always structured ourselves for short wars. That is how we think. We think that way because we are fundamentally a maritime power and an aerospace power. We do not maintain large land armies. We are not a continental power. The Germans, the Russians, the Chinese, the Persians, the Indians, all of those civilizations have maintained large armies because they have to. They have vast land areas to defend. Iran is roughly the size of Western Europe and half the size of India. That is a very different strategic reality. We do not think that way. We are comfortable with ships and aircraft, but ships and aircraft by themselves do not win wars. This argument has come up repeatedly in history. In 1942, General Arnold said it was conceivable for the first time in history that we might bomb Germany and Europe so heavily that we would never need to put soldiers on the ground. That was fantasy. 2 years later, we landed in Normandy. Every time we convince ourselves that ground forces will not be necessary, we make a disastrous mistake. We did the same thing in Vietnam. We threw huge quantities of bombs and aircraft at the enemy. And eventually we had to admit that it would not work and that ground forces would be needed. The problem now is that we do not have those ground forces to send. We simply do not. The army I left in 2004 was a fraction of the size of the one I served in during 1990 and 1991 in Desert Storm. Back then, we put 300,000 troops on the ground, and we had nearly 800,000 men on active duty in the army. If we tried to repeat what we did in 1990 today, we would not have the troops. And modern satellite intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance would reveal our position immediately. Because Iran has invested so heavily in precision-guided missiles, they would destroy us in port or on the ground, wherever we landed. That is what must be understood. Warfare has changed. For anyone wondering where to follow my work, you can find me on Subs.
Okay, you got anything on that? Ain't this ironic? You slid that in that he used to be in the army?
Right, yes, sir.
So?
And just about the ground troops too, Brother Leonard. That's they just let me know again that they are gonna do that. So then how is Israel falling, you know?
Exactly. Oh yeah, it's all set up, like I said. So earlier, like I said, last night on the men's line, we was dealing with the ramifications of what happened with Constantine and Council Nicaea. Then we came back this morning and we came with some more evidence. So I'm gonna close the Shabbat out with this right here. This with Constantine, Council Nicaea. Like it says, Constantine didn't come to pray. It was not a religious move. He came to rule, and so everything he done at the Council of Nicaea was for him to rule and for the Greeks and the Romans, you know what I'm saying, to take over. Okay, let's check it out.
Constantine did not walk into the Council of Nicaea as a believer. He walked in as an emperor who had a problem to solve. The problem was not theological. Constantine had very little personal interest in whether Christ was begotten or made, whether the Son was equal to the Father, or whether the Holy Spirit proceeded from one source or two. These were not questions that kept him awake at night. What kept him awake at night was an empire coming apart at the seams. By the early 300s, the Roman Empire was a civilization in crisis. It had already split and reunified multiple times. Rival emperors had fought each other for control. Provinces were restless. The economy was unstable. The military was stretched thin across borders that never stopped requiring attention. And now, the one new force in the empire that had demonstrated real cohesive power, Christianity, was tearing itself apart over a question that most Romans could not even properly pronounce. The question.
So, like I said, what so many people don't understand, but right here, we see the four beasts. He said it was fractured and was falling apart. So this the beast, not a man, not no man being the Antichrist, but the beast that received the womb in the head is the Roman Empire, and it's falling right here. And so they took Christianity. That's what caused the beast to receive a womb in the head and healed. And so they came, when they took Christianity, they made the Holy Roman Empire, because they took the Christianity and they fused it with our records, and they concocted JC, who is Serapis, who is Horus, and they made this being right here. And that's how the four beasts was received the womb and the head and did live. But nobody connects none of that because, like I said, we saw through the other previous videos how they bombarded us with all these false information, with all these lies, like you said, thinking that this whole situation right here, Christianity was a holy movement. It was all from Yahweh, but none of this had nothing to do with Yahweh. Nothing of this had nothing to do with Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It had nothing to do with them. Okay.
Was the nature of Jesus Christ. A priest in Alexandria named Arius had been teaching that the Son of God, while divine, was not co-eternal with the Father. That there was a time when the Son did not exist. That the Father was supreme and the Son was a created being, exalted.
Like I said, Serapis. That's what Darius is saying. Serapis. So all this right here that we dealing with in the New Testament was created. And he said that, and Darius came up missing.
Beyond all others, but still created, subordinate. This position had spread. It had followers across the Eastern Empire. It had bishops, theologians, and congregations willing to die defending it. It also had fierce opponents. The Bishop Alexander of Alexandria and his young assistant Athanasius insisted that the Son was fully equal to the Father. Same substance, same eternity, same divinity. To compromise on this was not a theological adjustment. It was the destruction of the faith itself. Both sides were certain. Both sides were loud. And both sides were spread.
So when you understand who this is, what the four beasts is and who they are, they merge. Esau merged with the Cain descendants. Both of them have a problem with Jacob, with Abraham, Isaac seed. They have a problem with it. So they came together. That's who this four beasts is. And so, like I said, their objective is not to deal with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They want to annihilate him, and they want to do away with the understanding that the Hebrews have. And that's what they did right here at the Council of Nicaea. Okay.
Spreading their fight across the very administrative structures that Constantine needed to function smoothly. So Constantine called a council. He summoned bishops from across the empire to the city of Nicaea in what is now northwestern Turkey. He paid for
to get that northwest Turkey. Now we right back there. We right there. We at the end now. We right back at Turkey.
For their travel, he housed them. He fed them. He sat at the head of the room. And then he made sure the outcome went the way he needed it to go. This is the part of the story that the official version tends to soften. Constantine is often portrayed as a pious chairman, humbly facilitating the debate of holy men and accepting whatever conclusion the Spirit provided. That portrait is not supported by the evidence.
Exactly.
Constantine had theological opinions. He had political preferences, and he had the power to enforce them. The council concluded with the adoption of the Nicene Creed, a statement of faith that declared the Son to be of the same substance as the Father, equal, eternal, co-divine. The Arian position was condemned as heresy. Arius was exiled. Bishops who refused to sign were removed. The church had spoken, or more precisely, the emperor had spoken, and the church had been organized to reflect it. What is remarkable is not that Constantine influenced the outcome. It is why he influenced it in the direction he did. The theological reasoning that favored the Nicene position was not Constantine's primary concern. What mattered was unity. A standardized, enforceable statement of Christian belief was infinitely more useful to an emperor than an ongoing theological civil war.
Right here. This right here, prophecy being fulfilled right in front of our face, but they didn't brainwash us with it. So right here, like he just said, his purpose was to bring the beast back. The beast had received the womb and the head, and they had fractured into four different parts. Constantine had conquered the other three, like it says in Daniel chapter 7. He subdued the other three. Now he back on the throne, and he wants to kill the womb of the four beasts, the beast that received the womb. And Christianity did this. So it's right there, and it's no way in hell it's got nothing to do with the Creator, because the Creator is not going to assist the four beasts in being revived. Okay.
The specific content of the creed mattered less than the fact that there was a creed at all, one document binding across the empire, enforced by the full weight of Roman authority. For Constantine, theological unity was administrative infrastructure, but the story does not end with a unified creed and a satisfied emperor, because almost immediately after Nicaea, Constantine changed his position. Arius was rehabilitated. Athanasius, the fierce defender of Nicene orthodoxy, who had become the most prominent voice for the council's conclusions, was exiled. Not once, not twice, but 5 times under multiple emperors. The phrase that attached to him across history was not a compliment at first, Athanasius against the world, but it became one, because he kept returning, he kept insisting. He refused to let the theological question become permanently subordinated to the political one. And this is the tension that the Council of Nicaea created, but did not resolve. It is the tension between a faith that claims to answer to a higher authority than any emperor, and an institution that has been restructured to serve imperial needs. It is the
so the thing about this is, I want to say this before I forget. So when once, like you said, what they did at the Council of Nicaea was they put the mind, the human mind, they froze it. That's why it's telling you just believe. Now you looking at it and you see the shit ain't true, it ain't working, but you've been brainwashed. Your grandmama, great grandmama, and granddaddy, all them all the way back, been brainwashed that you looking at it and seeing it ain't riding up with the mind that the Creator gave you, but you're still going along with it. That's what they done. So when you look at this right here, you can see that it, you can actually see what happened. And then the story about John, right? On this John's supposed to have been on the island of Patmos. When you listen to this right here, it's Athanasius. He got banished 5 different times. This is the clown right here that's on the island. They got you talking about is John. This is who on the island. Okay? But anyway, we're gonna send out the link. We're gonna open it up for some Q&A before we go.
Shalom, yes, sir.
Anybody want to come in? We'll send the link out. You want to chop it up before we close the Shabbat out?
And Brother Leonard, I have a question in Jasher 9 and 6, and this is kind of how you always tell us about seminary, right?
Right.
Yes, sir. And how that's not the right way. So in Jasher 9, this just verses 5 and 6, sir, and it says, and when Abram came out from the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instruction of the Lord in his ways. And no man knew where Abram was, and Abram served Noah and Shem, his son, for a long time. And Abram was in Noah's house 39 years. And Abram knew the Lord from 3 years old, and he went in the ways of the Lord until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against the Lord, and they rebelled against him. And it's a long verse. And rebelled against him, and they served other gods, and they forgot the Lord who had created them in the earth. And the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves at that time every man his own god, gods of wood and gods of stone, which could neither speak, hear, nor deliver. And the sons of men served them, and they became their gods. And shalom. That was Jasher chapter 9, just verses 5 and 6.
And the crazy part about that, that book right there that you just mentioned and the information you just read is the truth of the matter, but it was banned by the Council of Nicaea, right?
Right, exactly.
They said that book wasn't legitimate. Just like they said the book of Enoch wasn't legitimate. And then you wonder why we where we at. But yeah. So yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Nobody knows that Abraham, from 3 years old until he was 40-something years old, was living in a house with Shem and Abraham. Nobody knows that. Is there something?
Yes, sir. And to me, that's when you first showed me this, that was very powerful, right? Because that for me, brother Leonard, when when I'm talking to you, I'm learning from you. That's a lot of wisdom. But then I'm thinking about like Bashem though, like
Right.
from him and Noah being from the other side of the flood, and then how old he was, and then I think Shem outlived Abraham, didn't he?
No, Shem is Melchizedek. So he's the one that Abraham met in Genesis 15.
Genesis 50. Right. Okay, yes, sir. My
Right.
bad, I misspoke. But yes,
14.
sir. 14, right? That just the fact that he lived up until that time, though, and
Right, exactly.
people outside of this class don't necessarily know or understand that. But that's
Right.
big to me.
And it wasn't a coincidence, though. He had, like I was saying, I was communicating with a couple of other people how that what they got us brainwashed on the fact that, and you hear a lot of women saying that I'm gonna wait on Jesus, I'm gonna wait on the Lord to tell me. No, that's how he worked.
Right.
He got men in place with the knowledge that he departed to them. They gonna come in your presence. It's whether you're gonna have discernment to understand that the Lord of hosts has sent this person. So it's not a coincidence that Abraham and Shem passed cross, because Abraham, the knowledge that he had received from Noah was given to Shem. Shem had to give to Abraham. The paths had to cross.
Right.
He wasn't going to die until it happened. So the same thing going on now. The Most High, we know that the prophecies are happening in these last days. Well, there's people that he already prophesied in Isaiah 44, 1-5. He's going to pour his spirit out in the last days. He was going to put it, his men he got in place that he downloading information to. And then you're gonna even the internet. It's created behind that, because you're gonna come across the information one way or another, whether personally in person or through a channel or whatever. You're gonna come across the knowledge. If it's ordained or destined for you to get it, he's gonna bring it. It's gonna come right to you. I'm always quoting the scripture where happy are the feet of him who come bringing good tidings. You gotta be able to, when it do come, discern and rightly divide it. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else got anything?
Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. Brother Leonard, the Noahide laws. I read that they're, along with all the other things that were mentioned today during the morning Sabbath class, is that the laws themselves are something that they're pushing with this thought behind it, that all people must keep it, because these 7 laws were given to Adam and Noah, and that all people come from Adam and all people after the flood come from Noah. My question is, if you can just give understanding again, a summary of the fact that not all people come from Adam and not all people actually come from Noah. Shalom.
Right. It's just like I said at the council near here, team came there to not to pray or religiously. He came there to rule. So the things that went along with their culture and their way of life, and like I said, he's the glue that brought the Roman Empire back, the beast that received the woman head. So he can care less about our forefathers, Noah and all of them. So and then the understanding of what happened in the beginning. He don't care about that. He don't want. He trying to bring about bring all these people together, and so he's not going to tell you that he don't want no books or no information saying that in the beginning the Most High created these a man and a woman in Genesis 6, and then he rested, and then on the eighth day he created Adam. He had created a man and a woman before he created Adam, and that the serpent slept with Eve, which is where he came from. So he don't want you to know none of that. So that was disassembled, discombobulated, and cast off. And they gave you the version that they wanted you to have up from the story. And that's why people don't understand the fact that the 6-day man had a woman with him, but the man that the Most High, after he rested, after the 7th day he rested, and then he came and he formed a man. That was Adam. Okay, so you had the man and the woman that he created on the 6th day. Then you had our Adam and his lineage on the 8th day. Then the serpent slept with Eve and got Cain, which is who the Gentile is, the children of wickedness. But that's like I said, back in the day, you get your head chopped off or a sword ran through you. But so the truth was done away with. But now we in the very end of time, and the Most High wants the truth to be revealed, and that's what he's doing. He bringing the truth back. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, those Noahide laws is a concoction. When you understand what happened, they Judaism. Like I said, people don't understand how long Judaism and when Judaism came on the scene. In 143 BC is when the Israelites left. They got us believing, they lied to us and rearranged the narrative and saying that we left in 70 AD. But that's not the case. Antioch Epiphanes is the Antichrist, and he ran the Israelites out of Jerusalem in 143 BC. They stole the land. That's what Judaism come in at. And so Judaism say they the ones that tricked all that off and saying that the 7 laws or the Noahide laws, they came up with all that. And they introducing it, I guess the word I can use, to now, because when you understand that how the temple ran back in the day, the stranger can come in, but there were certain places in the temple only the stranger can go to. But the Israelite, the Hebrew Israelite, the stranger that came in was limited. That's what they're doing with the Noahide law. That's how you know what they getting ready to do in November. They saying that they the real Jews, and so they got these Noahide laws because they finna rebuild a temple, and so they got these Noahide laws for the Gentile, for the Goyim. They're gonna have a limited access to the temple. They have access to the temple, but limited access, and it's because of these Noahide laws.
Yes, sir. Saying they're concocted. I keep remembering every time I see the laws, the 7 Noahide laws that are listed. One of them says something about not eating the limbs of a dead animal, and that's bizarre to me because they act like in the story, in the history that's told to us about Noah, as if you just skipped over the whole fact that he was told to bring 7 of each clean animal.
Right.
It's like they're make believing and putting together, like you said, what they want to just put together, because why would you not just say eat clean meat? Because clearly Noah knew what clean meat was. And it's just bizarre to randomly put that.
Right. That's not where that's coming from. Where it's coming from is if you go to the like I said, they came with their own laws. They dwelled in Jerusalem from 143 BC to 70 AD. And they had a whole culture they had concocted, perverted. Okay, and so they said if you go to the Mishnah, right, it says that a man can marry a little 3-year-old girl. See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I've seen that. I've
So
seen that.
So you're saying that that's when you read it, us as Hebrews like read it, it's diabolical. But when you understand who they are, that's Cain descendants, and you go to the book of Adam and Eve, that's what they was doing before the flood. That was one of the reasons they brought the flood. They said a man with these Nephilim and Cain descendants, they would go into a man's house and they would sleep with the man, beat him down because they way bigger than them, sleep with the little kids, sleep with the mama, all that. That's what they was doing. So now these people, when you understand who they are, they got access to Jerusalem. When Antioch Epiphanes came and ran the Israelites out, that's where all this perversion come from. So it's not coming from Noah and Shem and Abraham. It's coming from, there's a whole other race of people in there. That's where this crazy ass, whacked out ass laws coming from, because they confirming their wickedness. They even got in there trying to justify sleeping with an animal, because that's what they was doing. That's who they are. Okay.
Brother Leonard, you mentioned the what was it? Their wicked ways, basically. I meant to ask this on Thursday night, and it's just now coming back to my mind. So, who was it? Abraham and Isaac both did something when both of their wives were in a land that suddenly they needed to say, this is not my wife, this is my sister, so that they would not be killed. And was that for both of them? Was that Egypt?
Well, you gotta understand, that's we just AJ just read out of the book of Joshua, and it tells you about where Abraham went. From 3 years old, they got that knowledge what was happening before the flood, and they would kill a man for his wife. So that's what Abraham doing. He was, that information was downloaded to him from Shem. So and Shem and Abraham gave it to Isaac. Told him, these people they'll kill you for the woman. So they had already they knew not to tell them that that's his wife, because as soon as he say that's his wife, they're gonna kill him. So that's why he stopped by the side of the road and told Sarah, when we get up here where these people at, because what his forefathers had told him about them people, that tell them you my sister. That way they're gonna try to appease me, rather than if I say that he's your husband, they're gonna kill me. And that's the reason both of them doing that. That information was passed down from Noah, which was before the flood.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And that was my question. I thought, so just looking at it, they had to have known that this is the land of wickedness. While it's not called Sodom and Gomorrah, somebody had to tell them, because the history doesn't read like they got there and they figured it out. It's like before they got there, hey, this is the plan. We're going in. And the only kin of me that you really are at this point is my sister. Like you said, Brother Leonard, because there won't be no more me if you tell them we're married.
Exactly.
And this Thursday was the first time that registered with me that this was information that was known amongst Abraham and Isaac from the forefathers. Shalom.
Right. You got something, Michelle?
Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. I do have a question, Brother Leonard. If you can explain about the clean and unclean meats. I had a conversation about that, right? And again, we have so many people that are calling themselves Hebrew Christians, right? And so what was said was that in the New Testament, it says, I'm trying to remember what they said, something like what goes into a man does not defile him.
Oh yeah, right. I get
It's
that
what
from
it.
right.
I think that's kind of what they said, right? So we got on the topic of clean and unclean foods that was in the book of Leviticus, right?
Right.
And it also states in the book of Matthew that he did not come to destroy the law, right?
Right.
So we was speaking on that. So I was just wanting to know if you can kind of break that down again. Like you said, they bring these things amongst us to make us feel as though it's okay. But my statement was there's no such thing as a Hebrew Christian. You can't have one foot in and one foot out, right? You want to pick and choose what you want to follow out of the Old Testament, but then also holding on to the New Testament. So I just wanted to know if you could speak on that a little bit, sir.
Right. Well, when you understand what happened, and the earth, the way the earth is created, okay, you got animals that the Most High has that they pretty much like cleaners. They clean the earth. They like when in the forest, you got a whole ecosystem where you got possums, rats, and all that. They when something dies in the forest, you know what it does. You see the smell that comes about and all that. Well, he got animals that clean all that up. They'll come and eat that and clean it all up. Well, you got the same thing in the sea with crayfish, crawfish, and snails and all this stuff that's in the ocean. They clean the ocean. They unclean because he created them for a certain purpose. They not clean. Then he has animals in the sea that for us to eat. Like he said, the ones with scales on them, they are pretty much the ones that are for clean meat for consumption. And same thing on land. You know, we got those animals that clean, that keep the earth, keep the forest clean and all that. You can't eat them. They're unclean. And that's why he says it goes to it's in the blood. So that's why every time you dealing with an animal, whether you're on the land or in the sea, you have to drain the blood out of it. And so you say, well, what you talking about? Well, in the beginning in Genesis 1:26, we see he made some animals, but those animals was out and about, like in the forest, in the rainforest, and in the jungles and all that. And then when you come to Genesis chapter, let me read it, because I don't want nobody to get this discombobulated. So when you go to Genesis chapter 2, and like I say, everybody read over it. You get to Genesis chapter 2, it says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had created and made, and he rested on the seventh day, and from all his work which he had created and made. Now here go what happened. And God blessed the seventh day, sanctified in it, that in it he had rested from all his work which he had created and made. Okay, I may be in the wrong place. No, okay, then you go to 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eat of it, thereof thou shalt die. Then 18. And then the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. Right? So this man he made on the 8th day don't have a woman. So he says that the Lord God said it's not good for man to be alone. I will make him a help me, right? So you assume this Eve right here. He said, this man, he don't want me to be alone and make him help me. Then you get to 19, the next verse. Out of the ground, same place he got him. Out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air and brought them unto Adam. This is the man who he formed to see what he would call them. These ain't the animals over in Genesis 1:26. He formed these animals out of the ground. He formed them, not created them, right? And he say what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. So you say, what's going on? These are domestic animals. These animals that we can eat. These animals we're dealing with. These same ones that's being used in the temple. And for the Lord of hosts to be sacrificed. The bull, the ram, the goat, turtle dove, all these animals are the ones that the clean. These animals are the ones he used to for atonement, for man's atonement, not the ones in 126. And like I say, this ride over everybody's head, and when it's shown to you, it's so profound. But like I said, it's on each individual to receive it or not. Okay, but you can see right there, it's plain as day. Then he comes in verse 21, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took his rib, and he closed up the flesh thereof, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he woman and brought her to him. Now in 21 he give, in 22 he give him a help me, a woman. But in 18 he formed these animals. And then in 21 and 22, he put Adam to sleep and then made the woman. But over here, Adam wide awake because Adam got to name these animals. Okay? That making sense?
Yes, sir, it does. It makes sense to me, but I wanted you to, put that on the record because they'll be listening to this. And you are my teacher, like AJ said, and you are the one that connects these dots and break it down and make it more clear, because when you try to explain to them there is certain food you do not eat, they seem to not understand why, right? So, with speaking with them and explaining, I'm like, whatever God put in place is forever. It is not going to change. Man can think they're changing that, right? But it does not change. It's the laws, statutes, judgments that's in place forever. There's no new covenant. There's no new law. There's no new, foods we can eat. And unclean is unclean, and clean is clean. Good is good, and evil is evil. And like I said, whatever he does, it's forever.
Right. And we got a prime example of the hog, the swine. He's unclean. Look at the damage he's causing us as African Americans. I mean, you think it's coincidence that he's causing all that damage to us as a people? Because he don't belong to us. He has nothing to do with us. We shouldn't be touching him. Shouldn't be eating it. None of that. It's told us in the Torah and the Tanakh that he's unclean.
Yes, sir.
Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
And then all you have to do is look at his behavior. Ain't that something? It's like a buzzard. How in the hell can you see how a buzzard look and how he operate? How can you figure you're supposed to eat him?
Turn around and eat that.
Yeah, a possum. Look how he look. How you figure you're supposed to eat that?
Right.
And then anybody that do eat it, they got to be abominable. Shit, come on.
You know how many parasites is in that, and diseases it carries, and all of that. And once you really understand that, also, it's about the Lord of hosts also was taking care of our health back then. You know what I'm saying? So today, when people ignore a lot of the things that you're saying to them when it comes to foods and the way they prepare it and what they grow and all of that, you know what I'm saying? They wonder why their health is, all over the place.
Exactly.
Because you're
Right.
consuming things that you should not be consuming.
Right. And it goes right back to the council of Nicaea. All that was cyborg. And people don't really understand. That's where the world changed it for us.
Right. So when they changed their eating habits, Brother Leonard, and this was another point that I made, like once you change, your eating habits or whatever, and say they go back to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, your blood pressure's better. What have you been doing? You changed something, right? So once you know better, you're gonna do better. But it's up to you to do that. Nobody can force you to do anything. So if you want to keep eating the unclean foods, then you keep doing that. But don't force it on me and make it seem as though, oh, it's okay, it's a new covenant, you can eat it, oh, you covered. But no, I'm not.
Right. And then you got you the crazy part about it is you're a living witness, because when it came to you, it hit you like a sack of bricks, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
why ain't doing it? Why is not doing that to them? That's something to think about, because it hit me like a sack of bricks.
Right.
And from that day forward, I haven't messed with it since. I had a couple of people that tricked me, told me it was one thing, and then I'm sitting there thinking that's what they told me, but I come to find out once I bit into it, I could tell the taste. It wasn't. So yeah.
Yes,
Other
sir.
than that, I cast it off. I had no problem with casting it off. Right.
Excuse me, Brother Leonard. I have a question in regards to the clean meat. Earlier today, I talked about the family trip to the zoo. We were looking at a giraffe chew, and it has a cloven hoof. And my grandmother was telling me that chewing the cud means chewing vegetation for a long time, and that she does not believe chewing the cud has anything to do with how many stomachs an animal does or does not have. So my question is, what does chewing the cud really mean? Does it mean eating vegetation solely, or the fact that you're looking at an animal that is chewing the vegetation multiple times? Shalom.
Well, it's grass. Eat grass, like you said, with cows. They're always trying to find open land, open pasture land for them to graze. That's what that is. Chewing the cud is those animals like horses and you know what I'm saying, rabbits and stuff like that. But they can. You got some animals that's unclean. They chew the cud, but still they're unclean. They might fit that particular situation, but they got something else on them that's causing it where you can't eat them, like the rabbit.
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's what that is. Grazing. Chew the cud.
And Brother Leonard, I had a question in Exodus chapter 3, 13 through 15. It reads, And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers hath sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? Verse 14, And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. Verse 15, And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Brother Leonard, my question is in verse 15. In verse 14, there's an answer of what Moses should say to the people.
Right.
And then in 15, it starts with, and God said, moreover unto Moses, thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. My question is, what is the significance of elaborating on, and I have thoughts on this, but I'd like to know your answer on this. What is the significance of elaborating not just this to people, but this being a text for us to see now, that this is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then he says this is a memorial unto all generations. So what does that mean for us now living in 2026? Shalom.
Right. So first of all, you have to understand that they tamper with our scriptures, and what they want you to know, they write it in there. They change it out and get what they want you to know. So you don't think that he all the time he was telling them his name?
I do believe
telling them his name. They didn't hoodwink it.
Yes.
But the point, the thing where to look at it from a greater perspective to expose the New Testament, JC said, I came in my father's name, me and my father is one, right?
Yes.
So Moses came to the mountain of God, and then when he get up there, it's an angel up there. And then it's Michael. Michael is up there. So then in order to get Moses' attention, he transformed himself into a flame of fire, right?
Yes, sir.
This is why the bush didn't burn. It ain't the same type of fire on the earth that man conjure up on the earth. It's a flame that came from Yahweh. When he created them from him. He's a consuming fire. So he lit on the bush, and the bush wasn't burned. That was to get Moses' attention. Moses got there. Then the scriptures say that Yahweh in heaven, he can do that. Spoke through Michael to Moses, right?
Yes.
So who talking to Moses?
Yahweh, and then now, and what I'm reading, Michael, the angel.
Yahweh and Michael, both of them one. They both one talking to Moses.
Right, and not JC.
So they lied to you when they told you JC. He told you. So they wrote that for you. Like when you start looking at all these creeds, we just read the reason we dealing with the council and here. They wrote that. And so that's what Negro quoting what they wrote. They took everything else away where all you have to believe that. Then they send you to school, and then you, in order to pass, you gotta quote that. And when you get out from under the seminary or whatever, now you quoting that. So like I said, y'all, when you understand what these people done, they had to know his name, but they don't want you to know his name. So he wrote it like that. Like, for example, we know that Michael is, in the very beginning, Yahweh created these 7 angels, and he named them, and it tells you in the book of Enoch what their names was. And the very first one he created was Michael. He who is Yahweh. So you think that when he come to appear to them, they're not telling him his name? They didn't cyborg that. Like I said, when you understand what has happened, they didn't just in 2026, you can show them certain things that's okay, well I'll go for that. They did something here and there. No, they butchered it. They butchered the scriptures the same way that Samuel did with Agag. When he told Saul to kill all the Amalekites, and Saul kept the king. He marveled at him. But when Samuel got there, the man of God, he pulled a sword out and chopped him into pieces. That's what they did to our scriptures. They ain't just tamper with a little word here and a little word there. They butchered it. Okay? And that's what you're dealing with right there. But you have to get to a certain point to see that. Because he's not dealing with them. When you see the emphasis that he put on his sons, how you gonna deal? And then he said, am I not righteous? So how you gonna be righteous and don't tell you his name? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I see. Because even it would be something for them, Moses and everybody before and after Moses, not to know his name, but we get songs in the book of Psalms where people are
Right.
singing about how righteous the name is and how they will sing the name forever. Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. This is. I mean, just imagine you meet a woman and y'all gonna get married, and then you go meet the father, and then you say, "Well, what's your name, sir?" And then he say, "I am what I am." Come on, man. You hear me? Just imagine
Brother
that.
Leonard.
It ain't got to be that situation. You can be behind enemy lines in the war, and then
Right.
they capture you and take you to the general, and then you say, "What's your name, sir?" He say, "I am what I am." Come on, man. Shit, it's crazy. It don't make no sense.
Brother Leonard, you see
After
something
all
there?
he done, and talking about and saying his glory, and don't disrespect him and all that. Then he come down to telling you who he is. He say, "I am that I am." Come on.
Excuse me, Brother Leonard. Are you able to bring someone up that is in the chat?
Who is it? In the chat. Let me see.
Praise.
This is brother Travis.
I
In
see
the
him right here.
studio.
He on the link. He on the link. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
There he is.
Okay.
There you
All
go.
right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. What you got, brother?
Brother Trav, you gotta unmute your mic, but you are live now on the panel.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
How y'all doing? What's up, AJ? How the whole panel doing today? Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, bro.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to know, Brother Leonard, and you too, Brother AJ. What do y'all feel about the location of Job in the scriptures? Because it almost seems like he lived in the time before. So what do you think about the time period placement where he's placed in the scriptures?
Oh yeah. That's another one of those things they tricked off. If you go to when you go to the book of Jasher, you familiar with the book of Jasher?
Yes, I am.
Job is a Edomite. He live in the land of Uz. That's them Edomites. And then Job is participated in the council when they counseled the Pharaoh on what to do with the Israelites. He helped them. He helped them when they counseled to throw the Israelites children into the water.
Okay.
He's not. And when you understand like what they done at the council of Nicaea, right? Constantine is when you understand who Constantine is, he's the four. You got four beasts. The last beast is the Roman Empire, which is where Esau and Cain descendants came together. That's Chechem is the Romans. That's how the Japhet, which is Cain descendants, they came together. But Constantine is ruling in the fourth beast, but he's actually a Greek from the third beast. So he's out of Cain's lineage.
Okay. I was just wondering that because I noticed that when I read the book of Job, I noticed that his wealth wasn't calculated in gold, but in livestock rather. Then I realized that he was a priest directly to the Most High for his family. And then I noted that there was no mention of Israel in this book whatsoever.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I got a problem with Job, man. I got a problem with Job. I got a problem with Esther.
Okay.
Like I said, these things are when you understand what they've done. Like I said, in the Old Testament, it's a clear order how Most High operate. So, like for example, in they got where the Israelites the Levites go to this college and they talk to Hilda. That don't make no sense. So you say, why is that? Why did they make the book of Esther? Because in the New Testament, all of a sudden they done raised all these women up like Mary Magdalene and Mary and all that, which is don't go along with our culture, the way that they portraying them. So they had to go back to the Old Testament and make it look like it was some women doing what they doing in the New Testament. So they configured the stories and put, like I said, the book of Esther is actually the book of Mordecai. Mordecai, the story is about Mordecai, but they turned around and made it Esther because they trying to make it look like that these women was doing these kind of things in the Tanakh that they got them doing in the New Testament, trying to synchronize.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you I heard you say you have a problem with Job. Do you believe? Well, we know he existed, but he existed in previous time before he was mentioned in the book, correct?
Right. They got it. When you understand how these people operate, they take timelines and take them backwards to make them fit into something. Like for example, a prime example is in Daniel 9:25, they say that's Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Messiah. But when you, I don't know if you heard this before, but if you go when you walk the dog on it, it's actually Zerubbabel. And they didn't rearrange the books to make it fit. So the 500 years they're saying that passed between the Old Testament and New Testament is when Jesus came. That's what they're doing. They're trying to make that 500 years work. But when you look at the scriptures, let me get it right quick. When you look at the scriptures in Daniel, right here, let me get it. It says, I'm in 9. I'm in chapter 9, and it says, let's get it. Yeah, starting at verse 22. Gabriel came to Daniel. He says, and he informed me, and he talked with me, and he said, "Oh Daniel, I am not come to make to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of the supplication, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision." Now here you go. Here go to 500 years, but you got to go backwards. They went forward. So it says, 70 weeks are determined upon the people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgressions and to make an end of sin and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and the prophecy and to anoint the most holy. So 70 times 70 is what? 490 years. So the iniquity that they done, they wasn't keeping the Shabbat year for 490 years. So they had to go to Babylon. They had to go to Babylon. He brought Nebuchadnezzar and ran them out the land. They had to go to Babylon for 70 years to make up for those 70 Shabbat years that they didn't keep. That's where the 500 years come from. So you have to go back for 500 years, not forward. They're telling you JC came in 500 years between the Old and New Testament. So that's why they're saying that Daniel 9:25 is JC, but it ain't. If you go back 500 years, you're going to end up with Zerubbabel right here.
Yes.
And let me get it right quick. It ain't going to take that long. So you go to back, and the book's been rearranged to throw it out. So we're in Ezra, chapter 1. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, this fulfilling Daniel 9:25. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and he put it in writing. And thus it says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he have charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. That's the fulfillment. and the person is in Daniel 9. Daniel 8. Cyrus chapter 1, verse 8. Even those did Cyrus, king of Persia, bring forth by the hands of Mitra, the treasurer, and numbered them to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. This is the prince in Daniel 9:25, but he got a captive name, Sheshbazzar. And when you do the research, you come to find out that's Zerubbabel. So that's the Messiah in Daniel 9:25. Okay.
What, sir? You know what? That's not far-fetched at all. Because look,
Right.
even when I was doing some research on Job, my text actually tells you that he's an Edomite.
Exactly.
And
Oh, yeah.
Job 42:17. After
What it
that,
say?
wait, I have to go get it. Hold on, take somebody else. I'm gonna go get it.
Okay, all right. Somebody else got something? Well, you going to get that?
Oh, and just Brother Leonard with that right there, with like how you saying you have a problem with the book of Job, right? And then
Right.
when I actually read it, I had never read it because I'm like, why he always say that? But the way he's talking to the Lord of Hosts in the book,
Right.
that it's not like how any, like it's not
Right.
like any of our other forefathers, they
You don't see
wouldn't
nobody else doing
dare.
that. Right.
Yeah, see nobody
You don't
doing
see,
that.
right. It ain't good. And so, like I said before, they got away with that back then because of, they mentioned it in one of the videos I was playing yesterday, but a lot of people didn't. A lot of people ain't getting it, but they were saying how that these people had a serious problem with us as us as Hebrew Israelites. So like I said, even with they got a problem with our God. That's the main reason why they don't want to say his name. They think it's some kind of, they trying to make you think it's because he's holy and he's so holy they're not gonna call his name. No, they don't want to deal with him. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Sure.
Yeah, they don't want to say his name.
They're familiar. They know the power of it, right, Brother Leonard?
Right, exactly.
Shalom. Brother Leonard, I wanted to just read 2 verses when we were talking about the name. And I had asked you about Deuteronomy. Exodus 20:7. The commandment is, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. And again, how could you take it in vain if you never knew it?
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Exodus 34:14. For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. I thought about that this morning, and I'll yield the floor back to Brother Travis, but I thought about that this morning when you talked about that video you played, about Marcion, how he, in his own head, thought, oh, well, the God of the Israelites, and I know it said something else in the video, is just too mean, so I need to create another God. But even when I heard that, I thought, oh, whose name is jealous? He is a jealous God. You shouldn't be doing anything else. Shalom.
Right. It's a lot. It's a lot to go with that. You got to do the research on it. But that Marcion, he created a gospel. It was that's who Mark is. Marcion is Mark, and then from Mark, that's where they get the other Matthew and Luke, and then they made Matthew and Luke, and then they still, you had people who had questions because a lot of stuff wasn't added up. That's when they came to John. John answered all the questions that Marcion and Matthew and Luke didn't answer. Like for instance, like we just saw, there was a problem with Arius and Athanasius about the nature of God. When you understand who the God is, it's Serapis. And Arius said, no, we ain't. He was created. I was there when they created him. When Ptolemy came and told them, make me a god. They made the first white god in Egypt was Serapis. That's who they took to the Council of Nicaea. So you had bishops that knew that. And they said, no, this dude he ain't divine. He's saying he's divine, but we know that they concocted, they made him. And it's the same thing what happened with Marcion. He did that one gospel, that's the Gospel of Mark. And then they came with, like I said, these Matthew and Luke jumped off of that. That's how you get those three. Then they had questions about the nature of God and the creation and all that in order to solidify Jesus the Christ. That's how John's saying, that's why he's doing all that over talking. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was with God. That's what all that's about. You over talking. You don't see in the creation story that our forefathers talking like that.
Right. It was a clear understanding without somebody making it up and writing it. Yes, sir.
Right. Just like I said, he just said, Moses get up on the mountain, he said, I am that I am. No, man. Yeah. Come on. Oh, yeah. You back, Travis?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. All right. It says in Job 42:17, this man is described in the Sirach book as living in the land of Eusis on the borders of Idumea and Arabia.
Right.
Hold on, this writing small. Hold on, let me hold the book up here. It said this man was described in the Sirach books as living in the land of Eusis.
Okay.
And on the borders of Idumea and Arabia. And his wife, hold on, I can't see this. I really can't see.
Yeah, take your time.
And his wife was and his name before, that's what it said. And his name before was Jobab.
Okay.
Well, how could that be? Because Jobab, which, hold on, I'll think about it. And his name before was Jobab. And having taken a wife from Arabia, he took a wife from Arabia. He was the son of Zerah. Z-A-R-E, Zerah. And it said that, hold on, I'm trying to get to that part where it says Esau. Okay, here you go. One of the sons of Esau. So there was one of the sons of Esau.
Okay. Oh yeah. Right. It says the same thing in Joshua. Tells you
For
who
real?
he is. Right. And like I said, you don't when you going along with the status quo, you don't see those things. But once you start using your God-given mind, then all this stuff starts sticking out. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
And Brother Trav, that was out the Septuagint, right?
Yes.
Okay, right.
Okay. Oh,
yes, right after 17, right after verse 17 is 17a and 17b and so on.
Okay. Yeah. We was debating that, and another thing that came up was that Isaac is not Esau's father. That's I mean, you know, these are things that doing my research and doing that was revealed to me, and I speak them on the line, and then let the Most High take over, and you know, we walk the dog on it. So when you understand that, you go to why is Esau red and hairy all over, and why is Jacob smooth skinned? And when you understand about DNA, DNA don't they ain't how DNA don't work like that. Wherever that whoever put the seed in there, that's what the baby gonna look like. You can't have Isaac, a smooth skinned man of a certain way, and then he got a son to come out totally and nothing in him like him. He all over red hair out now. Somebody else put that seed in there. And so you have to go back. You got to go back to the story of when Jacob went down to Gerar, when Isaac went down to Gerar, and it tells you, Amalek told him he saw him sporting with Rebecca, and he panicked and asked him, told him, he said, you that's your wife. And somebody could have easily lying with her, but that's still back dealing with the scriptures again. That's the only place they could have happened. And we know who Amalek is. Amalek is, they red-headed. People who hairy, red-headed. And that's who Esau is. And that's where he ended up at, back with his people, where he came from.
I agree. I think they tampered with a lot of stuff in our scriptures.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. So they brainwashed us to talk about just believe. Even though your countenance that the Creator gave you is a red flag going off, but you've been brainwashed to just believe. You know what I mean? When the shit ain't adding up. Okay. That make any sense?
Yes, it does. It makes all the sense in the world.
Okay. Yeah. So where you from?
I'm from New Orleans, you heard me?
Okay, yeah, I'm from the river, man. I'm from, right, you know where Fort Polk at?
I think I do.
Leesville, Fort Polk.
Yeah, I know where Leesville is.
Yeah, that's where I grew up at. That's where I'm at. I went in the army for a minute, then I came back home, back here.
Wait, I went in the army too. Well, of course we didn't go at the same time. I was MOS 92 out for Army Reserve.
Okay. You still in there?
No, indeed, no.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, we'd be glad for you to come in and chop it up with us, man.
Yeah, I think I will. I was supposed to come up before, but I didn't know how to do it, but I learned how to do it this time.
Yeah, just if you give us if you get that you can call at 337-802-08, and then we can send you the link every time when we have a class. Just automatically send you the link whether you use it or not. You'll have it.
Okay, so you'll do me a favor and send that to me, brother AJ.
Yeah, for sure. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody else got anything?
Brother Leonard, I do. And this is my last thing. The information that you and Brother AJ and then you and Brother Travis were talking about with Job, his disrespectful communication with the Lord of Hosts, combined with the fact that he was a grandson of Esau, is starting to connect dots of why he's even caught. Like he knows this God exists,
Right.
but he's not of Isaac's lineage.
Right.
So he knows this God exists. I did not know until today that Job is the grandson of Esau. And now that connects dots to me of why he even knew to call out to this high power that is a Lord of us. Shalom.
Right, yeah. When you understand who Esau is, Esau was raised by Abraham, so that they're the only culprit. The reason why we in the predicament that we in, because they know the law, statutes, and judgments. They the ones tamper with it. Like I said, it was no other country, no other nation that wanted our homeland. Esau, he's the one that came in and stole the land of Israel in the book of Obadiah. And then he offset that, got us thinking that was us in the land in 70 AD. No, that was them. They came in when you go to the book of First Maccabees. That was them came in when Antiochus Epiphanes came in 143 BC. That's when we ran out the land. And they came in, and that's them in the land from 143 BC to 70 AD. And then Titus and Vespasian cast them out, and to Spain. And that's like I said, then they came on the world scene with the Nina Pina and the Santa Marina, and came here to America, and that's what built up the West. They running from just like we got curses on us in Deuteronomy 28, they got curses on them that's similar in Ezekiel 35. And that's how they was able to pass as long as they did, posing as the Israelites, because of curses following them, just like curses following us.
Right.
So, but all that's coming to the light now. Okay, yeah. So that's what that is. So with that being said, yeah, I'm glad to meet you, bro, Brother Travis.
Same here, same here. Glad to meet all the fans.
Okay. So we can keep this going. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom to everybody. We got our Sunday advanced Bible study tomorrow. It starts at 5 p.m. And it normally lasts about an hour and a half. If it get good, about 2 hours. So
Okay.
I'll see everybody tomorrow at for our Sunday's advanced Bible study. I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
5 Central Time.
Right, exactly.
Okay, all right.
Shalom.
Sure.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel. And it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is, and the Godhead.